I'm Haley Oakes, and this is Milk Trails. A journey in the out-of-hospital birth experience. On today's show, we have parents Rosie and Noah sharing the birth story of their son at home. Their first child was born in a birth center, and after a successful natural birth, they had to transfer to the hospital for a retained placenta. The second time around, Rosie and Noah felt like they were ready to give birth in the comfort of their own home. Together, they share their experience coming to the decision to plan a home birth, the fears they worked through, and of course, how it all unfolded the night of.
The babes are asleep, and Rosie's folding laundry. And we're going to talk about mostly the second birth. But we can talk about the first birth, the second birth, because it was a different setting than the first, and that's sometimes unusual. Usually people choose the same setting. So for your first baby, you had a birth center birth, and which your decision in choosing a home birth will probably be telling about your birth with the first. So what made you guys choose, for both of you, what made you choose a home birth? Tell me if I'm speaking too loudly too with the little ones.
Ironically, it's because I knew that I wanted my toddler to be a part of it.
Oh.
Ironically, because she didn't wind up being a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But, it was a conversation that I had with Shayna. And she said, well, you basically had a home birth already. A home birth is the same as a birth center birth. You just don't have the car ride. And I thought, the car ride was my least favorite part. So, and I also thought about, this incredible view of the city and being up on a hill and how that would I just had this vision of, having our baby with this view, which has become so much a part of our life and a part of our souls, I feel like, since we bought the house. And so I had this vision of a pool and the lights, and for some reason I just knew it was going to happen at night. But so that was, I think for me, that was it. It was just that simple. I wanted Franny to be a part of it. And I had the vision of the lights, and the car ride sucks.
Yeah, the car ride was stressful the first time. We're just not hospital people. I've been to the hospital maybe once in my whole life, maybe twice. And so we did the birth center the first time, I think, because we didn't kind of have the guts to go all the way. And also we started doing our research, and the first place we visited was Del Mar, and it was magical, and we're like, okay, we're having the baby here. And I think after doing it at Del Mar, we were like, oh, we can totally do the full thing.
Had the guts to do it at home.
Yeah.
And to be totally honest, I think if there wasn't as much turnover at Del Mar between my first and my second, I might have had a harder time saying no to Del Mar.
All the midwives who
left. There were so many, it would have just been basically Margot and you who were the same. Everyone else was gone. And I met with Sarah Obermeyer at the center when she was still there, and I was pregnant, and it was early on, and I was trying to make this decision. So I was like, I just want a well woman's visit so that I can just talk. You don't have to hear my belly or anything. I just want to talk through this. And I remember there was some student midwife with us, and I was talking, and the student midwife was like, well, wait a minute. What is it that makes you want a home birth? And I talked about the view and the vision that would just be so beautiful, and I got all choked up. And as I got all choked up, I was like, I'm sorry. And she was like, don't apologize. I think you have your answer.
And I was this is a student?
Yeah.
And you're like, you have just become a licensed midwife.
And you have to keep...
You've graduated.
And then meeting Sarah, because because Sarah had delivered Kate's baby, and Kate was our doula the first time.
Right.
And we met with Sarah, and it was like, and then she was like, "Oh, my backups will be either Margot or Haley." And we're
Yeah, she kind of...
and we're like, so it'll be like all of the same team.
Yeah.
It'll be the birth center at your house.
Yeah,
if that
it'll
was
be
the
birth
backup.
center at our
Yeah.
house. And
And
so,
she also was like Jewish and from Chicago, and I felt like we were family the minute I met her. I was like, oh God. Yeah, you have to bring this new baby earthside with me.
And were there any sort of like, even though you felt like you had the guts to do it at home, was there a new set of fears that had come up for you guys that you didn't think about? Or
Yeah. It's interesting. This pregnancy, before I heard the first heartbeat, I had a dream that the baby was stillborn. Do you remember that? And so the entire pregnancy, I was so afraid that everything was going to go perfectly and that something was going to happen and the baby was going to be born, and that it would have been that if we were at a hospital or closer to a hospital, that everything, I don't even want to say it because it's just terrible. But so yeah, I had, and I never had any fears like that when I was pregnant with Franny. Like the only fear I had when I was pregnant with Franny is that I was going to have to transfer to the hospital, ironically enough. And I did postpartum, but I don't know if it's considered postpartum, I guess, but whatever. But this time I was like, remember how I was so afraid something was going to be wrong with the baby? And I think it was like I had this healthy little girl at home, and I just felt so amazingly lucky that she was like thriving, and that it's almost like, well, why was it so easy? It was so easy for me to get pregnant a second time, and I have so many friends who are still struggling to get pregnant their first time, or friends who had their first child and are having miscarriages now. And so the whole pregnancy, I was just so nervous that like the second shoe was going to drop or something, that like where's my hard time? It's all happened too easily.
I often say that to most clients, that everyone has a hard place somewhere that they don't expect, and whether it's the conception, the pregnancy, the birth, or the postpartum breastfeeding / healing, that everyone gets it somewhere, and it's almost meant to happen. That's the point that you become a mother and become a father. Like that's the breaking point. And some people fly by without being touched, but that's truly the exception. And perhaps like in your situation, it was the transfer after Franny's birth, the unexpected part. But how did you work through that, like, fear of stillbirth? I mean, because I'm assuming that led up all the way to the birth and even through the labor and birth.
Yeah. Actually, once I was in labor, I had my only fear was the placenta was not going to detach again. I mean,
oh my God.
Because the baby was so incredibly active through the whole labor and through pushing and everything.
You could feel him kicking and...
Yeah.
Wow.
I have the birth on video because
Kate did it.
Because Kate is insane.
Oh my gosh.
And there's...
Snuck it.
And there's a moment after he crowns and his head comes out where she says, okay, just hold that. And, she repositions me to leave more space. And I have this moment, and it's like a quiet moment where I'm taking a rest. And then all of a sudden you hear me say, oh my God, the baby's moving. Like I could feel him moving. And Sarah was like, yep, baby's doing their part of the job. And I was like, and I remember, it's interesting. I have a very vivid memory of the last push with Franny, and that's the memory I have of him, was the moment when his head was out of me and his body was inside of me, and I felt him move. That's
amazing.
So I mean, through the pregnancy, I dealt with that fear just by, like, I journal a lot. So I think that was a big way that I dealt with it. And I talked really openly with Sarah about it. And she, close to one of my final appointments, she was like, I expressed all of those things that I just said about everything's gone so easily. And she said, okay. And she's a numbers girl, you know? And she was like, okay, well, I just pulled up your chart and I'm looking through all of your numbers, all of your blood draws, all of everything. There is absolutely, like, looking at the ultrasound, she's like, and I'm studying this all right in front of me. And there is nothing to indicate that there is going to be any, you know, abnormality or malformity or danger or health risk with this baby. And so, and, you know, she just had to keep telling me that and talking about it. I'm not a person who doesn't talk about their emotions and their feelings. And so I talked about it a lot with people. And I remember one girlfriend said that her mom said the same thing when she was pregnant with subsequent babies after the first. Every time she had another baby, she was convinced that, like, there would be something wrong. Because it's like, you have a healthy child. So, of course, you're like, okay, you know, I don't know.
Do you think it has something to do with if you've had dreams that have turned out to be true, that, like, that you potentially could have, like, the power to, you know?
Yeah, I think for sure. So with Franny, do you want me to tell the story? So with Franny, like, a couple months before I was pregnant, I had this dream that, like, Noah and I we've been discussing that we were going on this trip to Italy, and we were like, and I said, this is my last hurrah, like, I want to do this crazy trip. It was amazing. And I said, I want to let's get pregnant in Italy. And it was this, like, joke, right?
But that's what happened.
But it actually happened.
Wow.
It's all the pasta.
We were in Italy for like 15 days, and I got my period the day that we got there.
My God.
Yeah.
So
the whole
end of your cycle was all Italy.
I was like, literally, like, this is actually, we can do this. Like, this is, yeah. So anyway, a couple months before we went to Italy, I had this dream, and I wrote down the whole dream, and it was basically the scene at the hospital after my placenta didn't detach, and it was, you know, abstract and not clear, like, you couldn't tell it was a hospital, but it was just a moment where there was a baby in a carrier in some sort of a thing and I wasn't holding the baby, and it was my baby, and it was a girl, and she had Noah's eyes, and I was freaking out because I was like, we should be doing skin to skin, I should be holding her. And after we transferred, I remember looking over, and Franny was, like, in the car seat, and I remember just having this moment of, like, I should be doing skin to skin. And it didn't hit me until, you know, weeks later, when I was still healing emotionally from the transfer and from all of that happening, that I thought, whoa, that was my dream. And I, like, went back to my journal, and I was, like, looking for it, because I was like, did it happen before? Was that a cry? Okay. Did it happen before our trip to Italy, or what? And so I checked, and I saw the journal, I found the journal entry, and sure enough, it was like 2 months before our trip. I wasn't pregnant, and so like having that come true, and the whole pregnancy, I knew I was having a girl. Like, I knew it, because I just kept telling people, well, I had this dream before I got pregnant that we had a girl, so I feel like it's a girl, and we didn't know until we had her. So I think for sure that definitely informed the fear of, like, and I had the dream of the stillbirth the night before we met Sarah. So she came to the house to meet us, and it was supposed to just be a meet and greet, and I woke up the morning of, and I told Noah about the dream, and I was like, I'm freaking out, and he was like, I was like, I want to call her and ask her if she'll bring her Doppler, because it wasn't, you know, a visit, it was just, and he was like, well, she's a midwife, she's gonna understand if you're honest with her. So I called her, and I was like, or I don't know if I texted, whatever, but I said, you know, I had this awful dream that it was stillbirth. I know this is totally not, why you're coming, but would you bring your Doppler so that we could hear the heartbeat? And she was like, absolutely, without question, absolutely, we can listen in. And we have a video of that because we're a videoing family, but you can just see like the relief. And every time we heard that heartbeat,
It was relief.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, my only real fear the second time was the placenta again, because that first time was super traumatic and crazy for me.
Because you had to drive Franny to the hospital while...
So Rosie left with Shayna, and there's a fly buzzing around. Rosie left with Shayna and Kate to go to the hospital, and you helped me put Francesca in her car seat, and I brought her to the car, and then I had to drive her 20 minutes to the hospital, and we hadn't named her yet. And I was just like, hey, baby, it's okay. You're okay. Everything's fine. Mama's fine. And then I had to, like, call her
also
family.
telling yourself that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really my only worry. Because before Francesca, I had a million worries. I was like a ball of anxiety and stress.
Yeah, he's traditionally in our relationship, he's the worrier. I'm not a big worrier.
The second time, I wasn't worried. I just felt like we've done this. And we're doing it like even more crunchy. Like we're doing
your style or just like home.
Yeah, we'll be at home. Like we'll be at home like with a team of amazing women who we trust, and it's gonna be great.
And so, for the fear of the placenta issue happening again at home, how did you guys work through that? Or you just sort of had to like trust, like we'll figure it out in the moment?
I did a lot of visioning work. Sarah also, we talked, I think it came up in every single prenatal visit with her. And I just keep, through the whole pregnancy, I kept remembering the thing that she said was, it could happen again. Because it happened once for you, you have a 10% chance of it happening again. And she said, but that means you have a 90% chance that it's not going to happen again. And sure, it's a few percentage higher, but it's still a 90% chance. And something that actually, I think when I started to really let go of that fear was when I went down a rabbit hole of Googling during one of my insomnia prenatal or whatever pregnancy nights. And I went down this rabbit hole and I found all of these forums with women, and of course they were all overseas. They're all like in Europe because they all have midwives and home births. But they were all like, oh, my placenta didn't detach with my first one, wondering if what are the odds of that happening, and has anybody had a second, whatever. And then you'd see like all the women who are like, it happened with my first, didn't happen with my second, third, or fourth. It didn't happen with my first, happened with my second. And so I actually did not read one woman who said that it happened again.
Interesting.
And you know what? And so I stopped reading. I was like, that's the information I was looking for. I don't want to look for the outcome that I don't want to happen.
Right.
So I just left it at there, and I was like, well, it didn't happen again for any of those women, so it's not going to happen again for me. And that really, sometimes the internet really can help give us peace of mind.
The World Wide Web connects you to all those British women who've said, it's all right. So going back a little bit to pregnancy, as a second-time mom, what would be your words of wisdom for staying healthy in the pregnancy as prep for the birth and the baby? And this means, we've talked about a little bit like emotionally but also when you have a little one running around, how is this pregnancy different of connecting and bonding and then also preparing for?
It was hard.
Everyone's just gonna hear. Audrey, go in your bed, honey.
Go to your bed. She went out before you got home too, so she's just being needy.
It's okay.
She's like, no, she's like, are you talking about having another one? Because I have something to
She's
say
like,
about this. I remember this woman.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Well, you weren't here for the birth, Audrey. So, wait. Right. So, oh, God. I think, unfortunately for me, I think the hardest thing in the world for me was I could not stay hydrated to save my life. I mean, it was 700 degrees in LA last summer. It was the worst summer of all time, and it stayed 700 degrees until the end of October. And I just could not. I mean, I didn't want to get up to get water every 5 minutes, and I also didn't want to have to stop to pee, and I was carting her around, and that I was not good about that piece.
And how did you feel when you weren't hydrated? Like, how did that stick out for you?
Yeah, I would get really terrible headaches. Something else would happen. Oh, I would get these sores on the inside of my mouth.
Goodness.
It happened with Franny's pregnancy too, but we pinpointed it to a low vitamin C intake. But yeah, I would get like, they just were like on my tongue. Just
So
weird.
interesting. Yeah.
And wait, will you read the question again? Because I'd had a thought after you read it, and
Just the, how to stay healthy in pregnancy, but also how different, how to also bond with this baby inside when you have a toddler running around. And
so I tried to like do some baths at home. I crochet, and so at night after Franny would go to bed, we'd put the TV on, and I would work on the baby's blanket, and I made them the same exact blanket but different.
Yeah.
It's like a granny square blanket, and so the colors are all the same, but none of the squares are the same. So I think that was a part of the bonding. It was also like talking about the baby coming with Franny was really special.
She like got it.
really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have.
Because how old is Franny?
She's 26 months now,
Yeah.
but she was 20 months
Wow.
when baby came, or 21 months. 21 months.
21.
Yeah, but I
Wow.
mean, she like
We just,
early on.
because we talked about it every day. We explained it every day. With her,
I watched birthing videos with her because I just didn't know, and so I wanted her to see what it was going to be like. So, but also, Noah is amazing, and he booked me a hotel alone in the fancy Marina Del Rey.
A night by the water.
Right, but so it was like, I think was it September or October? I don't remember.
I think it was late September. It was.
And it was only one night, but like I left in the morning, I went and got a massage, and then I, went into this hotel room and I crocheted the whole time. I watched terrible movies and crocheted and took a bath and did like a face mask, and that was like, I felt in that like chunk of time, that those 2 days and night, I took a lot of time and I journaled, and I really connected with the baby for sure. Like, and that was really, really good for me, because it is hard to split your attention, and the mommy guilt is real. Like the minute that I would try to split my attention, I would immediately think, oh my God, but her whole world is going to change, and forget this baby's going to be fine. I have
Still with me right now.
This baby can't get closer to me if it tried, so that was, yeah.
But the self-care is important in pregnancy, and it's doing that very thing of having the time and space for yourself, you know, of doing like the bath and the mask and the crochet that everyone sort of, not everyone, but a lot of people will have more time for the first time.
Yeah.
That kind of quickly goes away after
I
that.
can't even remember what I did with Franny on that day.
Cassie came over.
Oh, yeah.
I ordered room service. It was
It's just like, you know, I hope you were in a robe. I hope
yeah. The whole nine.
We
I was
talked. I remember talking to you and like asking you all about it, and you were like, "I'm gonna go." Like, this is my life.
This is my time.
You called me, or you texted
I called
me?
you after Franny was asleep, and I was like,
Oh, yeah.
giving you all the updates on the minutia of my day. And
Right.
you're like, okay.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about this.
And it was-
I'm enjoying my spa day.
And it was even funny because it's like once you become a mom, oh buddy, once you become a mom, you're what?
Been an hour exactly.
Okay, from the first cry out.
No, from
Okay.
going down.
Okay,
Does he wake up at 1 hour?
it's
Often.
a
Oh, yeah,
trend
yours,
that's
yeah.
been happening. So once I feel like once you become a mother, it's so there's just a constant Rolodex of things that you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I had this time away, I was like, I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I want to do this, and I wanted to I was going to listen to Hypno Babies, and I was going to do this and that, and I got in the tub, and I was like putting on Hypno Babies, and immediately I was irritated, and I was like, okay, but just calm down and just listen to it. It's good for you. It's good for the baby. And I was just like, F that. Mm-hmm. You know what? This is my time. And if I don't want to listen to Hypno Babies, I'm not going to listen to Hypno Babies.
Hypno Baby's rebel.
Yeah. So I turned it off.
Good.
And I put on Beach House instead.
Yeah. Way better.
Way
Way
more
more
relaxing.
Exactly. Oh.
And so it was like taking that moment to be like, no, this is self-care.
Yeah.
Yes, you're taking time to bond with the baby, but this isn't even about the baby. Like, this is about mama and what mama needs. Mm-hmm. And, but even when I was like in that environment doing this thing this is the point of it, I still had to remind myself and give myself permission to just disconnect from what the mother should be doing in this moment.
Right. And it's like, what does Rosie want to do?
Yeah.
To indulge.
And
And not feel guilty about it. And it's amazing, though, that we have to, send you across town and, to kind of put you away in order to...
Yeah. And
Make it
glamorous.
Glamorous Marina Del Rey.
Marina Del Rey.
But, I mean, it's hard to do that, I think, day to day, but especially as a mom, because there is such that, thing of giving that we were talking about earlier is but, you can't give if you have nothing to give, if you're tapped out. So,
Yeah.
well done, Noah, on getting that hotel room. And well done
Yeah.
for putting on Beach House instead of Hypno Babies.
Yes, Beach House.
All right. So, in choosing to birth at home, I'm assuming most of your family and friends sort of expected it because you already did a birth center birth, but was this a big
Friends.
shock for people, your community?
I don't think it was a shock, but there was a lot of worry because of the transfer the first time. We were home for a visit for 2 weeks, and we were in the car with my dad. We'd had a 45-minute drive to the airport, and he waited until we pulled into the airport.
No.
And he said to me, so, why a home birth?
You need to tell me some more about this home birth.
Yeah, he was like, what? And I'm like, well, we do not have enough time to cover
Wow.
it. But, and then my stepmom, who, by the way, has never had any children, but is an expert on the subject.
Naturally.
Yes. She said, I think your father and I are just a little worried about, you having to go to the hospital and that happening again. And I was like, what are you going to do? I met them where they were at, and I said, I completely understand your concern, and I told them everything that we talked about earlier, that everything Sarah said about the transfer possibility, and the research I had done, and it just, it is what it is. Like, this is the decision we've made.
This didn't come up when you were deciding a birth center birth. This kind of like...
There was, what's interesting is everybody was worried with the birth center except my father. My father, he said, my dad was born in Italy, and I said, because there's this need to break it to the family that you're not going to do it the way. I don't know if other people had that, but I for sure
Also,
felt
you're
this
like the
need.
California hippie to your family who's all in Rochester.
Right.
New York.
But so I felt this need that I needed to tell everyone, well, we're going to do this a little bit differently. But my dad, his response was, well, I was born in the basement of a church, so you saw.
I'm fine.
And he's like, you saw the church I was born in, basement. There wasn't even a hospital, where my dad was born. I've been to the town.
Wow.
So, and the closest hospital was an hour away. So,
So interesting.
And that actually, for my first pregnancy, that actually made me feel even more tied to that decision. It made me feel a connection to my grandmother.
Beautiful.
Which is why it was so funny that he was the one person that called us out.
I feel like he
Yeah.
was really sure it was a boy, and he doesn't have any grandsons, so he was like, "Wait a minute, but this could be
Right,
my only
exactly.
chance at a grandson."
The bloodline.
Yeah.
Oh my
And I
God.
don't think anyone in our friend community was really surprised.
Nah.
And then my mom had both me and my brother at home.
Wow, okay.
So
That was a no-brainer to tell your family.
yeah.
Yeah. There was we should touch on my mom since she was here for the birth. We had lots of conversations about it before she came in, and even during her stay, because I was 2 weeks late, and she came a week before my due date because I was so sure I was going to go early. But so we had many conversations while she was in town, and to the point where I even said, if you are not comfortable with this choice, I understand, but then you really shouldn't come unless we need you to come and take Franny. And
She was staying in an Airbnb close
yeah,
by.
so that was, we had a lot of conversations to that effect, and she came to all the last 3 prenatal appointments that I had with Sarah, and she wound up really loving her. And I think after the second appointment was when my mom kind of said to me, I get it. And I totally trust her, and I think it's because Sarah opened up the floor to her at one point. I had to go to the bathroom and pee on a stick or something.
That's what it does.
It was one of those things.
Yeah.
And I came back in and I heard them talking about the placenta thing. And so my mom was like, well, I was I thought, Mom, what are you doing? And she said, well, I had some concerns and I just wanted to ask her. And then we came home and she told me, she said, I really like her, and I needed to hear what she had to say about that. And she said, I'm sure you've had a million conversations with her about it, but I hadn't heard them, and she, felt a lot better. And then when it came down to it, we got into a terrible argument.
You and your mom?
The night I went into labor.
Oh my goodness. About...
Well, so we had
Well, I have to say what, but...
we did a refresher course with Britta Bushnell for baby number 2. And one of the things that she had said was, she said, if your mother's going to be there, you need to talk to her and tell her what to expect. Yes, she had her babies. No, she's never watched another woman in labor. And no, she's never watched her daughter in labor. Okay. So you need to prepare her for the sounds you might make, for the things you might say, for,
just like the partners do, and just like kids would, and so that's totally appropriate.
I was having that conversation with my mom, and let's be fair, I was like almost 42 weeks
Yeah.
past due. And
Well,
I was
42 weeks pregnant.
right.
42
Yeah.
weeks past due.
I was
The
almost
longest pregnancy.
I was almost 2 weeks past due, and I was exhausted and, you know, wanting it to happen as much as everybody else was. And we'd already had the conversation a few times, so it was the night I was going into labor, and I just had to really drive it home because I didn't want, I didn't want her to feel like she had to come because if we needed her for Franny, we could have just called her at that point. And I said, but you let me know. Like, if you're not comfortable with it, it's totally fine, but I want you to go back to the Airbnb right now, and I want you to think about it and let us know, and then we will follow your lead. I'm happy to have you here, but you have to know that you're going to be okay with whatever that means. And she told me later on, after the baby was born, that she called my aunt, who was in the room when my cousin had her second. And my aunt said to her, it's the most amazing thing in the world. I'm going to get emotional. To watch your daughter bring life into this world. And you're probably not going to get another chance to do it. And my mom was like, okay.
She was great when she was here. I was a little worried. She can tend towards like a nervous energy.
Well, she's a mom.
And I was just worried, like, I felt like my job second time around was like, I'm the protector of the vibe.
Totally.
Like,
absolutely.
Because I need a protector of my vibe in labor.
Well, you were fine, but
yeah.
I keep the room at the same place I'm at.
Exactly.
At least I try.
But I like our first experience was very magical, and I didn't want to have this like nervous, and I was very concerned with like a nervous energy, but she was amazing, and I'm glad she was here. And like, just for me, it's like I'm like the one guy, and it's like Sarah, you, Kate, Rosie's mom, and then Anna taking pictures, and I'm just like, I am just here. I'm just holding space here because all of these amazing women have got this. I'm just here to be the butt of my wife's jokes while she's going through her labor comedy routine.
which it truly was. I mean, we should just go into the birth because it was amazing, and it was. But yeah. So tell me, you know, when exactly went into labor and. From that point on.
So I went into like
post-argument.
Post-argument. Well, I went into kind of pre-labor the night before.
Okay.
And then I woke up and everything kind of stopped. And my mom took Franny to the park so that we could see if we could ramp it back up. And nothing, you know, we went on a walk and we did whatever, but it's hard because you know it's upon you, so you also kind of want to like preserve your energy. Kate had given me some hip opening stretches and things like that I was doing, but mostly I was just kind of like relaxing and trying to get into a zone. And then Franny came home, and my mom kind of said that she was gonna go to her Airbnb early after the argument. And we sat down to dinner. And I, like, looked at the clock, and I was, like, watching it, and I thought, I'm having cramping, and it's rhythmic for sure. It's not, like, crazy, but this is rhythmic. And so I kind of, like, gave Noah a nod, and I told him, and we had to give Franny a bath, and by this time, it was definitely, like, they were contractions.
Wait, is that when she took the bath with you?
You always do this!
You ruined the.
I do this whole build-up.
I haven't done that in years.
And then he
just
sucks it out.
It's a little team. It's a little duo. It's like you deliver, and then you're gonna do the line.
I literally just had
we've
the
dealt with this issue in couples counseling. I want you to know. Every time.
Oh, it's hilarious.
So
I genuinely just remembered I apologize for ruining your
times
moment.
of my life.
I was gonna say, was she acting like different or didn't want to do anything? But
she wasn't. She was totally like pretty chill. I wasn't like, I mean, it's happening tonight, you know. I just kind of said to Noah, I was like, I'm having cramps and it's every 7 minutes, and then we started getting her ready for her bath. And then I kind of was like, oh, they're coming every 5 minutes and they're definitely getting stronger. I could still talk through them and, you know, everything was okay, but I knew, like, this is it. And then Franny was in the bath and she, like, looked up and she was like, I want mama. And I was like, you want me to get in the bath with you? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And so I got in bath with her, and I was like having contractions in the bath.
Incredible.
She had no idea, you know, like, but it felt so amazing, of course, to like be in the warm water. And she finished her bath, and Noah got her out, and then I got out, and we got her ready and in bed. And I mean, I would say within a half hour of her being asleep, I remember I was like, okay, I took my Calm, and I think I took a Benadryl, which was pointless,
Definitely.
at that point. But so and that's when I was like, in my head, I was like, I'm just gonna do exactly what I did with Franny. So I got in bed, I put on the Hypno Babies, and I'm laying in bed, and I was just like, I couldn't get comfortable. I couldn't, and that was different than with Franny. I had a very slow ramp up with Franny. So this one, I was like, I couldn't get comfortable. I couldn't be on my side. I had to keep moving. I was really, because, and you know, in hindsight, it was progressing far quicker than, and they tell you that, right? Everybody tells you it's going to go quicker, but it didn't matter. I still kept thinking of these like placeholders in time with Franny, and I kept thinking of where I was at and thinking, oh, we still haven't done that. I still haven't.
Interesting.
You know. And so at one point, I think it was like 9:30 or 10 o'clock. Noah was like, "Do you think we should send out the email to like?" We had a pre-made email so that people would like light a candle and keep us in their thoughts. And I was like, no, not yet. And then I was like, 5 minutes later, I was like, yeah, I think so. And so, and Anna was a part of that. So I was like, should I text Anna? And Noah was like, yeah. And so I texted Anna, and I was like, I'm pretty sure it's happening. And I remember she like texted me back and said, why are you texting me? And I thought, I don't know. I thought you were coming to take pictures. And then I finally ended it with her, and I said, listen, whether you come or not, I love you very much. I totally understand where you're at, because she was like 20 weeks pregnant and so sick, and with a toddler at home, telling me she's gonna like drive an hour to take incredible photos of my birth. And so I said, Kate will be in contact with you from here on out. And so, do I just go into the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And is Sarah alerted at any point?
And so,
I was texting with
Okay, yeah.
Noah
I was
texting
texting with Sarah and
the whole
Kate
time.
Yeah.
and updating them
And
every little thing and change, and they were like, okay.
And this is what time now? Like 10?
This is like about 10 o'clock, I think, right?
I can't. Yes,
I should have.
I can't remember what time.
I have my birth story
I can't
written
remember
down.
what time.
Did you write the birth story down after?
Both
Do you
of them.
journal? Good.
Oh yeah.
I can't
But I
remember what
should have
time
read it
Kate-
earlier today.
I can't remember what time Kate and Sarah came over. Was it like 12:30 or was it earlier? Because he was born at 2:30, right? 2:36.
They must have been over here earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe they were
I
here
got
at
here
10.
maybe at 12:30.
Yeah, they were here at 10:30. They were.
So then, the email went out before then. So it was probably like an hour after she went down. So it was probably like 8:30 that we started sending the email and whatever. Wow, it's crazy to think of how quickly it progressed. And then so.
Yeah, like it's crazy to think it's 8:30 right now, and
You guys were.
Yeah.
like 6 hours from now, we had a baby.
And
Crazy.
we were. Noah was doing. You were waiting for them to do the whole pool, the tub, and everything.
Did you have your like heart set on having a water birth?
I did,
The
because I
shot.
didn't have one with Franny, and I'm a Pisces, and Noah's a Pisces, and I knew this baby was going to be a Scorpio, so I was like, this baby's coming in the water.
And also, your vision for your home birth was the tub in front of the window,
Yeah.
looking out over the view.
Yeah. Which,
Perfect.
Yeah. So,
I had also blown the tub up prematurely 3 weeks earlier, so it was sitting inflated in the garage.
Did Franny ever want to get in it?
she never even, I don't think she realized what it was.
Yeah, it's just like,
actually.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Like, whatever.
So Sarah and Kate came over.
So Sarah and Kate came, and it was, that was a treat, because we didn't know if Kate was going to be at the birth.
Of course.
Because she was only like 3 months postpartum, and she's not really doing doula work anymore. But, you know, the whole pregnancy, Sarah was like, she's a birth junkie. She ain't gonna miss your birth. And I was like, well, I don't want to put any pressure on her. But it was like the minute that they showed up, it just felt like, a party. You know,
It's like, my girls are here.
yeah, and they're so close. Like, it just felt so good, and so, they both just like set up shop.
Your mom came over at 12:30.
Okay, so they both set up shop. I was having, interestingly enough, with my first labor, I hated being on the toilet. And this labor, I just wanted to be on the toilet the whole time. And we got one of those squatty potties in preparation. But I hated doing them standing with Franny, and I hated doing them on the toilet. All I wanted to do was the peninsula this time with Shy. I did so many of my contractions with Noah holding me up on the peninsula and on the toilet. That was like,
Did you feel more pressure earlier on with him? You think that's why you liked the toilet?
Yeah, I think so. I remember at one point Noah was on the phone with Sarah, and he was like trying to differentiate what the pressure was and what I was feeling, and I kind of said, like, I was like, he's like, well, do you feel like you have to poop? And I was like, I don't like, that doesn't resonate with me with either either labor. It never really felt like that, but I was like, I definitely feel like I want to push. Like, I feel like my body is pushing. And so that was when I think...
That was when Sarah was like, okay, we're coming.
Yeah, that's when Sarah was like, okay, we're coming over. And I was like... And because I think that whole conversation started with me saying, no, they shouldn't come yet. They shouldn't come yet. And then me saying, maybe they should come.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what time it was, even.
And I remember when they showed up at 10:30 thinking...
I was apologizing to them. I was like, I feel so bad. You're here so early. This is crazy. And they were so
Franny
cool
was
about it.
born at 6:30 at night, the following night, after going through labor the night.
Wait, say that again?
So when I went into labor at like 10 o'clock at night with Franny, and she wasn't born until the following evening at 6:30.
Yeah.
So when they came over at 10:30, it was like...
Yeah.
Man, this can be a long night.
I remember I was so apologetic. I was like, you're here so early. I'm so sorry. And Sarah was like, she was like, no, and she wasn't like, it's going to happen quicker this time. She was just like, no, I like to be really early. I like to, and I thought, I get that. Like,
I'm down with that.
It's not like I'm showing up at her place. Like, she's got to like do her whole thing.
Oh my God.
And she set up all her stuff, and then I don't remember if Anna arrived before you or if you arrived.
Before.
But it was around the same time, I think.
Yeah.
So then Anna arrived, and I didn't know. And so when she showed up, we went through our pregnancies together for our first one, and we actually met at a prenatal yoga class before the birth class that we were in together.
I didn't know that.
And her phone died, and she was trying to look something up to pay, like that she had paid for the class, and I let her use my phone. We happened to have our mats next to one another, and we really like got along. And then randomly she wound up in our birth class, and I was like, wait, we met at that. And so we walked the reservoir together weekly while we were pregnant. Like, we were super, like, we really felt like a sister connection.
They were the first people to come over after Francesca was born and sit with us, and we didn't tell them your placenta didn't detach because we didn't want to freak them out.
I didn't want to. I
remember
just
that,
did,
which I thought was really awesome.
It just wasn't. You just don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, some people do, but I don't.
Yeah.
But so when she showed up, I remember just like feeling this wash of like, it's this is going to be the birth that I imagined. Like, it's going to be everything that I wanted it to be. And it's funny because I feel like I read a lot. People say that, you know, the second birth, they want to heal I don't want to say wounds, but for lack of a better word, the wounds of their first birth. And I definitely felt like her showing up and then you showing up, because I thought it was going to be Sarah Obermeyer. And so when you showed up, I was like, what? And you...
It's like another surprise party.
And Sarah Howard was like, oh, I forgot to mention, Sarah Obermeyer is on a plane right now. And I was like, okay. I mean, I was like, whatever. But... so it felt very much like, oh my gosh, like this is I'm gonna get the birth that I dreamed of.
With that, we're going to take a break. Please join us for part 2 of Rosie and Noah's home birth story.